I've wanted to make a positive video about career mode for a long time, and thanks to the beta and deep dive trailer, I think today is the perfect time to do it. The deep dive trailer had a lot of the information I'll be talking about today, but there's one or two of the things that I've seen on Twitter or people have told me are in the beta but haven't actually been announced by EA. Thanks to this Reddit post, some people were actually already able to play career mode on the beta before the trailer was released yesterday, and just to make sure I'm not permanently banned from YouTube, I'm not going to include any screenshots, videos or anything about the beta or any pictures of stuff that hasn't been announced, but I think I'm still allowed to talk about it if it is officially a rumour that's already on Twitter. So, what's the biggest news that we should be excited to see? Well, it might sound very dumb, but I think it's probably the PreSave menu. It's weird that one of the biggest new features for career mode is actually just a menu that appears before you start playing career mode, but believe me, this could be a game changer with the amount of options in it. So for a lot of us over the past couple of years, this menu has just been something like you might want to change your currency from pounds to dollars if you're playing in the MLS, or do a financial takeover if you wanted to watch one of my last videos. But this year, there are actually some really cool options in here. If you think that players are developing too fast in career mode, like I do personally, then you can slow down player growth to make every player in your save develop slower. If you think players grow too slowly instead, you can choose to increase the speed they grow. There are dozens of options like this everywhere in this menu, and basically every setting you can think about in career mode has at least 2 or 3 different options that can make career mode feel very different. You can force your club into a transfer embargo for up to 14 years. You can turn board objectives off, or if you're crazy, you can actually choose to make them stricter. If you think they're tough but want to keep them on, you can make them easier, or you can leave them to work as they do on FC25 by keeping that setting on default. You can basically customize your career mode to be exactly like the one that you want to play, and I'm a massive fan of this approach, and it's not just found in the settings menu. This approach seems to have been applied to almost everything in career mode. No longer do we need mods to do things in abstract ways like the embargo we talked about earlier. The default customization just gives you so many options, and everything in career mode has more options and more variety. I think everyone is quite excited by this amount of variety in FC25. There are more nations to scout, including small ones like San Marino, Gibraltar, Andorra, tons of them in Oceania, Africa, South America, the Caribbean is fully covered. There are a huge amount of new player faces for youth players as well, with all of them now able to age. There are new clubs to manage thanks to the introduction of women's leagues, and there's also the choice between regular and simulation gameplay on the pitch. That was quite a long list, so let's start by talking about the simulation setting. And I really like the option to have simulation gameplay, but it is basically just a set of sliders that are pre-built into the game. You can actually see what the sliders do. They reduce sprint speed and increase the pass and shot error a bit more, like you would expect the game to play in real life. However, from what I've heard, even with the new sliders, the game is pretty much the exact same as FC24. If you didn't like that gameplay, you're probably not going to enjoy the gameplay on FC25. The new face system is undeniably good though, because the face system means there's so many more options for youth faces. Hopefully this means the days of getting identical twin players from Brazil are over, and it also means that there's no more Santa Claus looking players who were born in 2013. To be honest, I have already seen some pretty horrific creations thrown up by using this system, like this one that I saw on Twitter and someone posted on my Discord a couple of days ago. But the face system means you've got a lot more options when it comes to creating everything. The same system is used for player career if you want to create yourself in that, or if you want to create yourself as a manager. Do you remember when we only had about 8 manager faces to choose from in FIFA 17? Well, now there are hundreds of realistic looking preset faces that you can choose from. More faces is always good, especially as my beta code only had kickoff mode, and I can confirm that lower league players do look more unique and more like they do in real life compared to FC25. That AI stuff really has worked. While this player face stuff is really cool, I think the variety added when it comes to scouting youth players is even more exciting. There's been tons of nations added, as we talked about earlier. Basically every continent has at least 5 or 6 nations, and I think almost every single nation in Europe is now in the game. Just like faces and gameplay though, this is a huge positive, but has also kind of been ruined for me, as while there's a lot of youth nations to scout, some of them actually have really poor name pools. I was talking to someone who managed to access career mode on the beta, and when they scouted places like Vanuatu and Samoa and Oceania, they had pretty cool name pools. There was a lot of variety, whereas other nations like Armenia literally only had a single surname. If your last name is Sarkisian, then you will love managing in Armenia, because every single player is called some variation of Sarkisian. The last thing on our list we talked about earlier was women's football, and even if you're into men's football, women's football transfers will show up in the social media post by Fabrizio Romano that you'll see on the side of your screen. You can move between men's and women's football whenever you want, and while it won't be the first save I do on FC25, I do think women's football could be a really cool way to experience career mode. So while there is actually a fair amount of changes for a career mode update, let's talk about some of the other things that you might not have seen. So, while the gameplay loop is still basically the exact same thing, is play a match, load back into the menu, change your squad, sign a player, play a match over and over again, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Because of the pre-save menus that we talked about earlier, you can basically customize career mode to be exactly what you want. You can make training matter a lot more if you enjoy playing the training sessions, or you can basically remove it from the game. It's up to you if you want to lock your players to always have 100 sharpness and 100 fitness, or if you want to make training the toughest part of your game due to increased stamina drain if they do training sessions. Hopefully you agree with me that everything we've talked about so far is a massive positive to career mode. There's more choice, there's more customization, I think there's more strategy, you can make the game hardcore, or you can make it more casual depending on what you want to do. If you just enjoy playing the games, you can make the game so easy off the pitch, but play it really tough on the pitch. Whereas if you want to play it more like Football Manager, where it's really difficult off the pitch and you're out of control on the pitch, you can do that too. Some different combinations of the settings before the save are going to make career mode exactly how you want to play. While, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any new leagues on FC25, for the first time, I think that doesn't really matter for career mode. Almost every single thing that I've talked about in this video is actually already in FC24. But instead of us getting a game with just a few new cutscenes or a few new animations as our new feature, instead, we've got a game that doesn't actually have any new features, but has a sandbox mode that's more open and hopefully will let us simulate football more accurately than FC24. We've not had the biggest list of changes, but as long as everything that EA has mentioned works and the gameplay is good on the pitch, I think FC25 has a good chance of being the best career mode of all time, and finally EA has improved on FIFA 17. So thank you for watching, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and of course subscribe so you don't miss some of my FC25 videos coming out when the game releases. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon, cheers and goodbye.